Recording in progress.
Good morning.
Whether you're here in person, joining us online, or watching later on YouTube, welcome to First Parish in Concord. I'm Reverend Seth Carrier-Ladd, your interim senior minister, and my pronouns are he, him. As a way of being inclusive and welcoming, we are encouraging everyone to put pronoun stickers on your name tags. Pronoun stickers are available on the welcome table out front and downstairs by the name tags. If you're online, please feel welcome to participate fully in the chat. If you're here in person and have questions about accessibility or the building, please see our ushers or any worship leader. Masks are optional throughout our building, including in this space. We continue to use enhanced ventilation and encourage masking to keep our communal spaces safe for everyone. And I invite everyone present now to turn and wave to those folks who are joining us online. However you are joining us this morning, thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. All right, I have some announcements. Lots of things happening today at church. After the service, we have the worship sharing circle, a small group conversation about the service theme in the Brooks Room in person and on Zoom. We also have coffee hour, a less structured way to connect. You can just stay on Zoom after the service if you want to chat, or here in person, get your coffee in the kitchen and mingle in the parish hall. So we have some things. At 11:30 a.m. there will be a budget information session hosted by the Standing Committee in the Emerson Room. So if you want to learn more about the church's finances, here's your chance. Also after the service at 11:30 a.m. there will be a forum hosted by the Welcoming Walls group right here in the sanctuary, so you can come and learn more about the plans for the portraits in the parish hall. Also happening after the service, the Pathways to Membership class will start promptly at 11:45 a.m. in the Brooks Room. So if you are considering becoming a member or just want to learn more about what it means to be part of our community, please plan on coming to that. And finally, on this busy morning, if you've been thinking about becoming a member, and are speaking of membership, and would like to sign the membership book, we will have an opportunity to do so. Yes, right there, that's the membership book. Yep, that thing, yep. We'll have an opportunity to sign that directly after the service in the front foyer by the main front doors. And there's even more things going on in our congregation, so if you haven't already taken a peek at your Sunday announcements, please do that so that you can know what's happening in our community. And now, let us rise in body or spirit and sing the first two verses of number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Welcome. Yeah. Gracious One, as we gather this morning and in the days to come, keep watch on the innovators, the trailblazers, the takers of risk. Invite us to be persons of vision and integrity. Help us to remember the mystery from which possibility is born. Lead us to honor the sacred space where ministries, idealists, and realists meet. Encourage us to imagine more than just what is. Fill our hearts in times of discouragement. Keep our eyes on the long now. Through our efforts this day and every day, let us know the fruits of connection and a deeper faith. Welcome. And I invite you now to join us in our chalice lighting, unison chalice lighting. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and encourage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Amy Friedman. I serve as your Minister of Religious Education. And today's wisdom story is a legend that comes from India. In the land of India, far across the sea, there lived an elephant and a monkey. And the elephant and monkey were friends. But one day they had an argument. The monkey told the elephant it was best to be quick, flexible, and agile. And the elephant said, "No way. It is best to be like I am, big, strong, sturdy." And the two of them went back and forth, and they could not figure out which was most important. Their whole friendship was almost ruined because of it. But you know what you do when you get into an argument like that in stories like these? You go and you visit the wise old owl. They called up to the owl, "Which is better, to be quick or being strong?" And the owl said, "You must do as I tell you." I won't continue on that way, don't worry. Do you see that tall tree over yonder with the golden fruit on the other side of the river? Please go and bring that fruit back to me. So the elephant and the monkey began. Soon they came to the river, and the water was running very fast. So fast and so deep that monkey started to put his foot in, but he started to be carried along the river, and he quickly scrambled back out again. "Oh, I cannot go in this river. It is too deep. The water runs too quickly." "I am big and strong," said the elephant. "The river is not too deep and fast for me. Climb on my back, and I will carry you over," said the elephant. So the monkey climbed onto the elephant, and they waded across the river, and they made it to the other side, and there they saw the very, very tall tree, and at its top was the golden fruit, and the elephant wrapped his trunk around that tree, and he pulled, but it was much too strong a tree to pull. And he reached with his trunk, but it was much too high for that trunk to reach the golden fruit. So I think you might imagine what would happen if you were a monkey. What would you do? What would you do? That's right. That monkey quickly just went right up to the top, got the fruit, came back down, and hopped up onto his friend's back. And they made their way across the river and back to the owl, and gave the owl the golden fruit. The owl asked, "Of the two of you, which one of you brought me the fruit?" The monkey said, "I did it, because elephants can't climb trees." And the elephant said, "But without me, you would not have been able to cross the river." And before the argument started all over again, The owl interrupted and said, "Ah, so now you see what's more important, that one of you is right or that the goal was reached. Everyone has unique abilities and strengths. No one is superior to the other. Together, you are both strong and quick. Together, you have achieved something that would have been impossible by yourselves." Thus ends our wisdom story for today. Our service has this theme of what is possible when we work together, all bringing our unique selves, our unique abilities into community, what goals might be possible. And today in our religious education program, our Little RE program for preschoolers has already begun. You're welcome to bring little ones down there. Our Whole Lives is happening with our 8th graders upstairs, and our kindergarten and 3rd graders are going to be decorating Easter eggs today because despite the fact that my car was frozen shut, next Sunday is Easter. So they'll be doing that. I'm very grateful that Eric Moore is joining me to lead Jubilee Kids. We send Anderson our loving care because he has the flu today. We miss him very much. And did I forget anything? Yes, our Crossing Paths group, which is 6th and 7th graders, are learning about Quakerism. With all that, let us all, the children and RE guides, come forward as you all sing us on our way.
This morning, I'd like to introduce and invite Wayne Rubenstein to come forward. Wade is the founder of the Bike Connector, and he will introduce our Share the Plate this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. And thank you so much for the whole congregation for having me here. As I came in, my friend and your congregant Eric Van Loon said this better be good. I was also told that I only have 1 minute, so that concludes my remarks. But I want, on all seriousness, the Bike Connector, we are a nonprofit bicycle workshop up in Lowell. Our mission is to get people on bikes that need bikes for transportation, for recreation, for fitness, and we keep those people on their bikes. Our model is one of recycling, so we collect bicycles, we fix those bicycles up with our clients, and then we distribute those bicycles back into the community, and we have a workshop where people can bring their bikes to us if they break, which inevitably they do, and we fix those bikes together. It's a do-it-together model. Our goal is really to kind of keep people safe and to keep them riding. We also have an educational component, so we train people on how to ride safely. We teach people how to maintain their bikes. We have a workforce development program. We serve the entire community. So Lowell, as you may know, is 30% immigrants, so we work with a lot of immigrants through agencies. We work with the schools. We're right across from the high school. Kids can drop in after school with their bikes. We keep them riding. In terms of the theme today of kind of building kind of community is really great because, we got started, there was a need in the community to provide transportation for people. The first year, which was 2019, when I started this program, we distributed 70 bikes into the community. Last year, 2023, we distributed over 2,000 bikes into the community. And that must have been great. And really, this is full circle, standing in front of First Parish. I first got involved volunteering in Lowell through the Jericho Road Project. And so I want to thank this community for kind of getting me connected into Lowell, and just really happy with the work that we're doing. We're an all-volunteer organization. Last piece, the needs. Under a minute? Okay, good. Our needs, obviously we have financial needs. For those 2,000 bikes that we distributed, our cost per bike was around $43 per bike, which includes a helmet and a lock, which is pretty good. And that was great. And we need volunteers, so I know people are very busy in their time, but we need your time. And then we also need bicycles. So a sad thing is an idle bike sitting in your basement or your garage or your attic, or even worse, just outside rusting in your yard. So if you have bikes, we can certainly use bikes, time, and money. And I want to thank you once again for this opportunity. And I have literature out front, and I'll be available afterwards to answer any questions. Thank you.
This morning's offering will be greatly accepted and received.
Our reading this morning is Turning to One Another by Margaret Wheatley.
There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about.
Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about.
Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters.
Talk to people you know.
Talk to people you don't know.
Talk to people you never talk to.
Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty.
Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible.
Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something.
Know that creative solutions come from new connections.
Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together.
Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world.
Rely on human goodness.
Stay together.
Wake now our vision of ministry clear. Brighten our pathways with radiance here. Mingle our calling with all who will share. Work towards a planet transformed by our care. What does it mean to follow a vision together? What does it mean to follow that vision in covenant? What would it look like to transform the planet by our care? What vision is required of us in these times? The way is dark, and right now it feels particularly dark, especially with the attacks on our democracy, on individual groups. It seems that when I see a glimpse of light, it turns out to be an oncoming train, and I jump to the side of the tunnel to save myself and hope that others too recognize and can jump away. Not everyone makes it. Despair, powerlessness, and hopelessness in the face of rising authoritarianism seems a reasonable choice. For some of us, the constant chipping away at civil and human rights is intolerable, and yet some are immobilized by the sheer volume of events, the constant barrage aimed at women, transgender people, immigrants, children, the poor, the disabled, and the very planet on which our lives depend. Many of us are doing what we can, shoveling against the tide that seems to be sweeping the entire planet and not just the United States. The rise of authoritarian leaders pushing the notion of closed communities and the promise of safety. It's hard to be anything but cynical. What vision is required of us in these times? If we are to have a vision, we must awaken from the false promise of a culture that is grounded in bullying, defensiveness, paternalism, and quantity over quality, all values associated with a culture of white supremacy. We have created a culture in which our interactions are mostly transactional. What will you give me for what you want? We have created a culture that centers profits over people. When our senses awaken, we see the pain and the violence that this way of thinking has caused in the communities around us, in communities of color, queer communities, poor communities, in Muslim and other marginalized religious communities. With intention, these communities have begun to gather together, and in so doing, they're beginning to feel a deep power rising. The power of coalition, collaboration, and cooperation. We are making that long, slow shift from transactional back to relational. When our senses waken, we recognize that love truly is at the center and must always remain at the center if we are to thrive, for we are inextricably linked to the interdependent web of life. To place love at the center is not to accept the unacceptable, but it's the recognition of the inherent worthiness and dignity of another, even if they don't see mine. It is a shift from what Jewish theologian Martin Buber called I-it to I-thou. It seemed we've stopped talking to each other locally, nationally, and globally. How do we come back to those conversations? What is our vision? And to be clear, the concept of wokeness is something that every religious tradition seeks. Enlightenment of some kind, compassion, justice, mercy, love, these are all values of religious communities everywhere. What vision is required of us in these times? The framework of awakening means we must open to the new, to the possible, to the very ideas that challenge us, to see those interconnections more deeply. Together we quest for the true and the right with the wisdom of the ages as our guide, knowing and understanding that we fail, that we fall, that we get tired and worn out, and that in all of it, there is deep beauty, that all of it is sacred, all of it sublime. If we are to overcome the challenges of polarization that we face around us, we must be willing to come to the conversation with maturity and grace. A maturity and grace that remains curious, thoughtful, and responsive, that refuses to be judgmental and shallow and reactionary. A maturity that brings patience and the knowledge that it takes time for us to change our minds, or to even be willing to change our minds. Those who bring a questioning mind and a measured tone to the conversation invite deeper conversation. These are people who know deeply their faith values, and they live from that place. Now, that's not to say that one can't be passionate, but passion is not the same thing as anger. And people with maturity of faith offer depth in discussion, depth based on facts, empathy, grounded in human care and humility. These are people willing to take time to engage the conversation for the sake of relationship, not just to be right. This humility brings curiosity and willingness to listen, even if we don't agree. It also brings the possibility of changing one's mind based on new and different information. We balance our reason, our thoughtfulness with compassion, because we know that reason itself is not enough. Reason itself can justify anything, but when married with compassion, reason finds balance. And to be clear, compassion is not the same thing as empathy, as feeling for someone. Compassion is to walk a mile in another's shoes. It's placing oneself in the experience of another through a thought experiment, allowing the feelings to enter you to gain deeper understanding, and through that, deeper empathy. Compassion us opens to the understanding of the suffering of another. It awakens us to the human condition, to our own condition, reminding us that we are never alone. Mark Morrison Reed reminds us that the central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all, reminding us that true liberation comes when no one suffers needlessly and everyone is free. Any vision of the world made whole with all her people one must include a compassionate response to both the individual and the collective pain of the world. Morrison Reed states, "It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community." And none of this means anything without that still small voice of conscience that resides within, that calls us to acceptance and love, to remember that all life is sacred and holy, no matter what we hear on the news, no matter how they try to tell us that some people don't matter. The still small voice guides us to open the circle wider, along with our hearts. When open to this voice, we awaken to a truth. We see that caring for each other is the way that we care for ourselves. We awaken to the truth that privilege and advantage are neither. They succeed only in separation and building walls in order for those in power to keep their place. What vision is required of us in these times? So many people are one illness, one job loss, one problem away from losing their place or any privilege they might have. I know many who weathered the economic downturn of the late 2000s in their car or their camper. People who pretended on Sundays that all was well, when in truth their own situation was more dire than they cared to admit. Privilege is a slippery slope, and one that is insidious. And the drive for power and privilege diminishes us all. What vision is required of us in these times? Collective liberation asks us to live as if we remember that all day, every day, we have the chance to lessen our own suffering and the suffering of others by making choices that support our community. Collective liberation calls on us to create a vision that comes from being awake, thoughtful, compassionate, and justice-centered. As Morrison Reed reminds us, together our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Collective liberation asks us to live as if we remember all day and every day to have a chance to lessen the suffering of others and ourselves. It reminds us and calls on us to create a vision that comes from being awake, thoughtful, compassionate, and justice-centered.
As Margaret Wheatley says, there is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about.
Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams.
Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talked to.
Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty.
Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections.
Remember, you don't fear people whose stories you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change the world.
Rely on human goodness.
Stay together.
Each week, we gather to share and learn together. As part of what it means to be a caring community, we receive the milestones and sacred moments that you all share with us. both virtually and here in person, and we hold one another with compassion and open arms. This week, we hold in our thoughts and prayers the spirit of reverence that gathers all seekers, including those for whom the occasions of Purim, Equinox, and Palm Sunday carry a special meaning. Blessed be the many paths of cherished traditions, new connections, and listening that always brings people closer together. We also hold in prayer Abby and Mark Russell Pryor, who are mourning the loss of Isaac D. Russell, Abby's father. Isaac passed away peacefully on February 27th, 2024, surrounded by loving family members. May his memory be a blessing, and may Abby, Mark, and all who cared for him be held in comfort and care. And into this sacred time, I invite all of you to say aloud the names of those you are holding today, or type them in the chat. We acknowledge and hold in our hearts all of the prayers, spoken and unspoken, among us. We hold in our hearts all those who have yet to find a community of care in which they can share their joys and sorrows. May they find peace. May they find love. And now, as our prayer continues, I invite you to join me in a moment of prayerful reflection, once again lifting up the words of the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone, our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens, and our strength is renewed. May it be so, and amen.
Now I'd like to invite forward Jane Fisher to give our final stewardship testimonial of this annual pledge campaign season.
Good morning. I'm Jane Fisher. I'm delighted to share with you what First Parish means to me. Tom and I came to First Parish in September of 1996 when our daughter Lydia was in first grade. We had friends who were UUs, and they told us we were too, but we just hadn't realized it. And they were right. But I was a little wary about this religion I didn't really understand. I had to check the hymnals the first day to make sure all my favorite Christmas carols were in there. But I also found myself impressed with the warmth of the service and the community. Over the years, I taught RE, participated in a couple of the Beck plays, had the opportunity to go to Transylvania twice. I served on committees, including the intern committee. It was rewarding to work with talented people as they progressed on their path to ministry. Once we have a settled minister, I hope First Parish will once again support ministerial interns. I always enjoyed the choir and the music, and in 2006, when Lydia spent a year as an exchange student in Portugal, I decided to join the choir. I figured I'd do it for a year or so. 18 years later, the choir is my most important connection to First Parish. Our choir is outstanding. Much of this is due to the wonderful leadership of Beth Norton. In addition to the normal music that we provide at services, over the years we've offered such things as Paul Winter's Missa Gaia, the Bach Magnificat, John Rutter's lovely Requiem, and many more. May 19th, you'll get to hear the lovely Spirit Song by Cliff Harden. It's so rewarding for singers to be able to learn these masterpieces, and so wonderful for the congregation to hear them. And how many other choirs sing in Hungarian, Latin, Spanish, Hebrew, Arabic, Lakota, and who knows what other languages? The music we provide enhances and deepens the messages of the services. It's an honor to sing in the First Parish Choir. We work hard, we care, and we have a lot of fun. Another aspect of music at First Parish that's become very important to me is the by-your-side singers. Started about 15 years ago, we learn hymns, chants, soothing songs, and more so that we can sing at the bedside of parishioners who are ill or housebound. We go out in groups of 3 or 4 to sing for and with people. Sometimes it's a person recovering from surgery or an illness. Sometimes it's someone in a nursing home who just can't get out. Most moving are the times we have sung for people who are near death. It's a privilege to share that time with them and to bring them caring music. We've evolved, by-your-side singers. We now also do group sings at places like Concord Park and Care One for Concord. And I want to point out, we're not a choir. You don't have to audition. You don't even have to read music. You just have to want to sing and bring comfort to people. If you're interested, I encourage you to join us. We're having a retreat on May 23rd to plan for the future, so this would be a great time to get involved. So I guess you can tell that music means a lot to me, and being able to make music in these different ways at First Parish is an essential part of who I am and why I support this church. We've increased our pledge this year, as we have been fortunate enough to do most years. If you've already pledged, thank you. If you have not, I hope you will soon and increase your pledge as much as you are able. Think about what First Parish means to you and how you would like to support the institution and our amazing staff who give so much. Thank you.
Our closing words this morning are the words that I use each time I preach and am given an opportunity to do closing words. These are the words of Octavia Butler. She was an author and a pretty amazing author at that. She wrote The Parable of the Sower. So if you're familiar with that, this is where it comes from. She writes, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. And I'm going to invite you now to rise in body and spirit and join in our final hymn. And I want to just let you know that the fifth verse, the last verse, we're going to sing in plural. So pay attention to the screens and you'll get the words right.
Friends, even though we extinguish the physical flame of our chalice in this moment, we can never extinguish the light, the love, and the hope of this community that the flame represents. Let us say now together our benediction. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Go and be blessed and be a blessing. Amen.
you.